Everyone has a good story to tell, and you know it is a good story when the person leans in and says, "See, what had happened was," and then tells the story.
This podcast provides those opportunities to tell those types of stories in education. The stories will be from the good, the bad, and everything in between. We wanted to do this podcast to showcase stories in education and to give flowers to educators who deserve recognition for their excellence.
Our guests will feature parents, students, teachers, administrators, and just about anyone who is involved in education. These stories will inspire you, challenge you, and help you to reflect on your practice of education, whether it be from the inside of the classroom or outside.
If you have a good story to tell, we'd love to hear it. Email us at contact@andredowty.org. We'd love to have you or your story on a future episode. See What Had Happened starts now. Welcome to See What Had Happened, where we hear stories in education from the good, the bad, and everything in between. We're your co-hosts, Danielle and Andre Daughty. If this is your first episode tuning in, welcome.
Hey, welcome.
If you've been a part of the family since season 1, welcome back. We've missed you.
We sure appreciate you hanging out with us here.
We're on all podcasting networks and we're on YouTube. Make sure you click like, subscribe, and share it out to all of your friends.
Yes, today we have a special guest joining us. Today's special guest is Lacrecia Terrance. Lacrecia is the owner and the CEO of the Edu Project. She is also an advocate of comprehension education for all, and all means all of the students, every single one of them, with particular interest in those students and the children of color. Lacrecia has been in the educational field as a certified educator for over 20 years, with more than 11 years in a tenure as an administrator, having served in every level of education, including teacher, academic dean, principal, high school director, instructional coordinator, district STEM educator, national faculty member, and now the lead educational consultant for the Edu Project. Then on top of that, she's been partnering with Adaptive X and more with PBL Works. Lacrecia is that person you all need to know. We're so glad she's here with us today. As a leader of change, Lacrecia has had the opportunity to learn and to deconstruct those systems necessary to enforce educational equity. So please help us to welcome Lacrecia Terrance. Lacrecia, how you doing, girl?
Hello.
I'm good. Thank you guys for having me here on this afternoon.
Thank you for hanging out with us today. So we heard your bio, read your bio. Tell us a little bit more about who is Lacrecia.
So as you were reading, I was like, oh, wait, yeah, I did do a lot of that. But the best part of that is that I have had that opportunity to serve for over 20 years in many capacities. And that is, what we look forward to, which is the student, the teacher, and the leader, and taking all those experiences and using them to make them who I am today. And pushing forth the work that I do in working with students of color, particularly, but all students, not leaving everybody out. But there is some experiences that have shown me as a student, and we'll talk about those stories later. But why I need to be in the place where I am now, of having strong women as well as women of color in places where we can fight for change for our students. And so that's just kind of the work that I'm doing that kind of brings all those things you talked about together. Another thing is I'm working on my doctorate. And so I am at the finish line of that.
Yes.
As soon as I become board certified, I'm just a little bit excited. But you get to those moments where you think, okay, wait, I've been working on this for 5 years. Yes, I said 5 years. So, hey, don't judge me.
No judgment.
No judgment.
None whatsoever.
It takes some time.
Sure
but, even with a year of clinicals, it seemed like it wasn't obtainable. Even at 40 plus years old, I'm like, oh my gosh, am I going to do this? And so it's coming to pass, and I'm excited, and I can't wait to share that news with folks that are coming forth. And, and as the CEO of Edu Project and bringing things like that's coming up, new ICA Innovation Collegiate Academy and Unschooling, which we would talk about later. So that's just the two things I'm adding to my platform.
I love that you're giving opportunity to so many people and that your focus is all students, but you want to make sure that those students of color are also being served.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So, Lacrecia, let's set up this story. What perspective is your story coming from? Tell us about it.
So, I want to tell my story. Just from from the educator stance, student stance, looking at where I am as a parent and how and the things that I do in the community and how that became my story and how of all of those things. Folks out there say, "Oh, I'm a brand myself." I want me to become the brand where my experiences became the brand. Right? They led me to that purpose of understanding where I needed to be. And so, as an educator, I've taught fourth grade, fifth grade, then I've jumped up, taught sixth and seventh grade, then did seventh and eighth grade, then did algebra one. So I had the opportunity to know what it felt like to be an elementary teacher, a middle school teacher, and then teaching secondary algebra one. And so I just kind of remember so many stories. Even when I left elementary and went to high school, I started decorating my class. I love color, y'all. I love to, elementary teachers. We love to put up the bulletin board.
Absolutely, we do.
We
Team
love
Edgy,
the
let's go. Yeah.
the polka dots and putting the fabric up for the color. And in the secondary, teachers started coming by and they were like, "Hey, what's up? What you doing? We don't do all that up here," right? And so just kind of having fun with that. And also as a parent, my children are homeschooled, but they haven't always been homeschooled. In the process of pulling my kids out of public schools, which I love public schools, no judgment again. There was once upon a time I said I never would step foot in charter schools. I never wanted a charter school. Now I want a charter school so badly. I don't know what to do. So I have literally my mind has grown, the growth mindset of understanding every sector of public versus private versus charter, and then homeschool, because those are the kids that are left out. But I made a very conscious decision about 7 years ago to homeschool my children. And I had to do what's called unschool them in order for them to learn the way that they learn best, right? And take all of the methodologies that were placed upon them to tell them that you're not capable and that you have to learn in this type of capacity, which wasn't for them. Right? I had to break all that. And so that's as a parent, I'm telling you, dealing with my kids in school, I've learned about SPED, I've learned about 504, I've learned about so much, of those things and experienced those, so that kind of played a role into where I'm going now with my story. And then as a student, I've had so many experiences. When I was when I was going to ninth grade, I should say, my parents, just like most parents, and I did the same thing too, except that I didn't have those choices that we have today. But my parents was like, "Well, we're going to send you to a good school, right? We want to get you out of the community school because the community school is failing. And also it is the kids in our neighborhood, which we grew up in a little rough neighborhood. You guys don't know nothing about that. But we grew up in a little rough neighborhood, called South Baton Rouge. And it just was at the time just not the best scenery, right? And most of the folks in our area were not college bound and weren't thinking about college in no type of way at that time. And so and then programs that were at the schools, and the schools were failing in our area, those types of things. And so they were like, "Well, we're going to send you to a school that's 20 minutes away." And I became the minority. And I became the minority where discrimination happened. And I had teachers who weren't really truly there for me. And I had teachers who didn't want to really help me, but they said they did. But they would just smile at me and let me, let things happen, right? And so I have so many stories behind that story of just teachers saying, "Just keep trying. It'll be okay. It'll be all right. But I'm waiting. When you gonna help me?
Right.
When you gonna give me the assistance? I got it. Like, I'm a good student, and that's what you banking on for me to pass. But what if I'm not one of those students?
Yeah.
What if I'm one of those students that we did have kids that just literally dropped out of school because they didn't get any help? But I got a lot behind that. That taught me so much. And then when I went to Southern University as a college student that freshman year.
Push pause. Where did you go again? Say where'd you go again?
The Southern University.
Okay.
Come on,
Let's
HBCU.
go HBCU. Love
Home of the Jaguars.
HBCU pride over here.
I wish I would have completed that and finished that as graduated, but I did do 3 years at Southern University. But Southern University taught me so much about love, about people, about culture, about who I was, because I literally in high school lost my identity because I was afraid to wear my hair a certain way. I was afraid to dress a certain way because other people who were not like me didn't understand that. It was like, "Why are you wearing your hair like that?" So I wanted to wear my hair straight. I wanted to wear my hair curly. I wanted to wear my hair flowing. As a matter of fact, you see me with braids on today. If you ask my family, you ask those who really truly know me, they will be like, "Oh my gosh, she got on braids. I can't believe she put braids in her hair." So this is one of those cultural things that I had to be like, let me be me. Let me be free and understand that we can be beautiful and professional no matter what our hair looks like, right?
Right.
And I really seriously went through a moment, a mental moment with that, where I had to break free from that, and knowing that I didn't have to have the long flowy hair, right? And then when the moment I cut my hair, I didn't have to have a panic attack, those kind of things.
Yeah, that
So
India Re song,
I am not my hair.
that India Re song, "I Am Not My Hair," was such an anthem to show everybody where you can be who you are and however you look. It doesn't matter because it's the inside that counts. Since the title of the show is "See What Had Happened," Lacrecia, what happened?
see, what happened was you had this little girl coming from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, who decided to spend her senior year of college in Dallas, Texas. And so really a little small town called King, Texas. And so that means I decided to stay in Dallas after I graduated. And so my very first teaching assignment was at this little small school in Dallas ISD. And so it was my first time truly being exposed to other cultures outside of my own, growing up in a majority African American community. And so I knew, a little bit about Caucasian folks, in the stories and the things that I heard growing up in my area, but not necessarily Hispanic students, right? And so this is when my world was really opened up. And I love my students, absolutely love my students. When I first started teaching, I had 90% of ELO students, right? And so even students that were not fluent in English, they were, just coming to America for the first time, and so just being exposed to all those types of things. And so it's a story that's leading up to a story. So I'm gonna be really quick about it. And so as I was learning, I realized I had to learn the culture of my students in order to reach them, right? But I had a barrier there. That was something that was kind of not communicating or stopping me from understanding who my students were. But one day, out of a big frustration, the kids just was like, Miss this and Miss that. And I said, wait, stop. Don't call me Miss now one more time. And every child in the classroom got really quiet. And they were just looking at me. They were like, what? And so one of the partner teachers came up and she said, you do know that's a sign of respect, right? And so now they feel like you're either upset with them or you're angry with them, right? Because I was like, stop. And so it really made me take a deep dive into understanding the students that I was teaching. I got an opportunity to learn from their parents, learn from them. We brought their culture into the curriculum. I mean, like we did a whole slew of things. And so we had one day during a conference, I asked one of my students to share with their mom why they weren't passing, math at that time. Right. And so the mom was like, yeah. She was so excited. She was just like smiling and everything because I had the child translating for me. Right. And I was like, this cannot be the same conversation. I said, tell your mom that you're not completing your work and that you're not doing your homework. You're not doing all these things that, that are required, whatever. And the mom was like getting so excited. And I know I heard A. I know all my ABCs in Spanish. Right. Okay. So I know you didn't say F-A. You said A. And so, and so I was like, no, you didn't say what I said. So that made me learn Spanish. So I started learning conversational Spanish and started doing everything I needed to do to make sure that I understand culture and can understand the language. And so that's going to lead up to my story. See what happened. Mm-hmm. What had happened is I had as a high school principal, and I had 98% Hispanic students, right? Learning from all the things that I picked up when I first started teaching. I had these little girls, teenagers, young women in the bathroom. And I said, hey, I don't want to go to the teacher's lounge. Let me just run to the closest bathroom. We do that as teachers sometimes. Mm-hmm. And as I'm in the stall, they have a little girl comes in running, crying. And then her friends come in behind her. So I know Amor, I know love, and I know my boyfriend, and I know all these things that they're talking about. And I hear key words, but I have no idea what they're talking about, right? no idea. But they just keep going, and she's crying. They're consoling her and giving her hugs. And then all of a sudden, one of the girls was angry. She was stumping her feet, and I know mile, and I know words, right? And she was cursing too, so she was saying a whole bunch of stuff, right? So I just say, it's enough. So I the stall, and they was like, Miss Terrance, did you hear everything? I was like, yeah. And who you love? I started picking out all the words I know, not all the other words, right? Because I had no clue what they were talking about. I was like, oh, okay, so you broke up? I'm assuming I'm using context clues. So you broke up? What happened? Those kind of, and he did this to me, and he did this to me, and all this kind of stuff. But again, remember, keep this at the forefront, is I have no clue what they were talking about because they were speaking so fast in their native language that they thought I was, you know, I had picked it up. But when they came out the bathroom, I heard what the little girl say, see, I told you Miss Terrance spoke Spanish. You better tell everybody else they better not talk around Miss Terrance. And so the story is that, what had happened is I don't know what they said, but they believed that I did know Spanish, and they spread the word across the whole entire campus that watch what you say in front of Miss Terrance because she knows exactly what we're talking about. So that's a little I thought it was like the best thing because I'm walking out like, yeah.
Makes you feel good too when you pick up keywords or phrases that you may not know the language, but you're like, okay, yeah, I'm decoding this thing right here.
Figure it out. But it's just so funny because she was like, I told you Miss Terrance knew how to speak Spanish. And I was like, I have no clue. But it's all good.
Then I'm also wondering, like, imagine you now walking down the hall and they were speaking in whatever their language was, and then they see you, and then they get real quiet, or they just quit talking altogether because they know you ear hustling, you're gonna pick up.
This happened this started spreading around the school. So when I did pass certain conversations, they would stop talking. And so I just let them believe that for 4 years. It's all good.
It is.
We had so much fun with it. And then I would ask my, teachers or one of the parents, whoever comes to, I said, what they said, tell me, repeat that for me. And so it was just really great. But what it did is it helped me to build the best relationships that I have ever had in my tenure in 20 years. So this happened the latter part, versus the beginning part where I'm learning cultures, where I'm learning, who my kids are and understanding a different culture that's outside my own culture. But I brought all of that with me, and it created an atmosphere or an environment where folks appreciated who I was because they felt like I appreciated them. I took time to get to know them. I cared about them. And my students excelled because that particular school that I took over was in its last year of IR, which means it was a failing school. And I came in as a turnaround principal. They made it, and they increased scores by 70% on every EOC. And we were a school within 3 years.
Wow.
And so that's culture and that's relationship.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because we took time to understand each other, regardless of even we couldn't even speak the same language. But we understood each other, and appreciate each other. And that went beyond, the other barriers.
And this is a great example of why it's so important to build relationships in any situation. You're not going to get into anything without building those key relationships.
Yeah. And it crosses racial barriers. The old saying of students don't care what you know until they know that you care. And I mean, this is a perfect example, whether it's a white educator serving at an all-black school, or a black educator serving at an all-white school, or our indigenous family. Like, it doesn't matter who the mix and the match is. You got to respect their culture. You have to respect and serve their community. And then when they see that you actually are there for them and not just to lord over them and be a teacher, they'll break their back for you. Sounds like that's what happened here.
Yeah.
Did you hug it out with the young women, the young ladies
I did.
at the end?
I did.
Because that high school heartbreak is...
Yes.
Did you fuss out the person who broke her heart?
You was looking like, oh goodness. But I did tell her this. I said, I've been there. That's the one thing that we've all, I don't know, you probably never experienced heartbreak before, but I have. Right. And I was like, I was like, yeah.
High school heartbreak is the worst. That's when you turn on mint condition. That's when you turn on Pretty Brown Eyes and you just play that on the loop forever and forever because your heart is broken.
How she looking?
You eat your ice cream and your cake. You just pity for a little bit. That's all that is.
Get under the covers, all that good stuff.
Yes.
Some of the best educators in the world are people you've never heard of. They may not be on TV or get the National Teacher of the Year awards, but we want to give those teachers their flowers today. We know the sacrifice and the heavy lifting these educators go through daily. With that said, we present Sprout Outs.
Here at See What Had Happened, we like to sprout out those people who have been excellent examples in our lives. Lacrecia, who would you like to sprout out this episode?
So I would like to sprout out, and she's no longer here with us, but she leaves a very long-lasting impact on many educators' lives. And so it won't be a surprise when I say her name, Rita Pearson. Rita Pearson has made such an impact in my life. And so most of my strategies that I use, as well as like the story that I just shared with you, all about culture. That, Rita Pearson was about, my most famous quote from her is, kids don't learn from people they don't like, right? And so I say that all the time. She was like, oh, do you think they like you? And so, building relationships with students, whether I'm a teacher, whether I'm a leader doing it with teachers, whether I'm on the outside as in consulting, having served in all three of those capacities, just like Rita Pearson did. The biggest thing that she has taught us is to make sure that you build relationships, right? Build relationships where folks can learn, they can grow, and so that's just the person that I feel like, that has really given my vision for education, where I want to be, where I want to continue to grow.
We believe when one wins, we all win. We want to help you win. Lacrecia, how can others follow you on social media?
So you can find me at LT Edu Project on all platforms, except for Instagram. So on Instagram, it's LT_the Edu Project. Everything else is LT Edu Project. And so come join me, come join the conversations and just the deep thoughts that are happening there. Also in the spring, we are launching Unschooling Podcast. I'm so excited about that.
Yay.
And so you get to hear those I want to say it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable, talking about tearing down systems, breaking systems, and reimagining. Well, I don't know if we want to reimagine. I'm just going to say that. We don't want to reimagine putting us back in the same position, but recreating systems that definitely didn't work for all students. And so, I told you guys before, unschooling came out of the thought, particularly for my daughter who had dyslexia, who she was the minority in an all-white district, and their answer was to continuously fail her, and like literally put her back in the same grade level. When after we homeschooled her, she advanced 3 grade levels within 1 year. And so unschooling. All right. So, you can now follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And again, it's Unschooling Podcast. And you can also visit our website at www.theeduproject.org, where we share our services and all the things that we do in our work with education.
Unschooling. Absolutely love that. Well, we've reached the end of another episode of See What Had Happened. Make sure you connect with us on YouTube and all of the platforms of podcasts, whether it be Apple, Spotify, Pandora, Google, any of them. We're right there. We really appreciate you all watching with us today, and we appreciate Lacrecia joining us today. Don't forget to join us on the next episode of
See What Had Happened. Bye.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. You can find out more at teachbetter.com/podcast.